Chapter 8. The Problem Brother. Hearing Jean's cry of pain, Louise and the wax queen rushed to her side. "Oh dear," the sculptress exclaimed. "You're burned. I'm so sorry. I'll get something for you right away." She dashed across the big room and picked up a can of powder from a shelf. In the meantime, Louise had helped Jean remove her stocking, which was full of holes and had wax clinging to it. The sculptress returned with the powder and sprinkled it generously over Jean's leg. "That will soothe the burn and keep you from getting an infection. Osmo and I often get little burns while working, and we have found this very effective." After a pause, she said, "However, if you think you should go to a doctor, I'll be glad to pay for it." "That won't be necessary," Jean replied. "It feels better already." She asked the queen please to go on with her work. Louise then refilled the dipper with hot wax and took it into the studio, where she set it down beside the statue of herself. The sculptress seated herself again on the high stool and gently poured some of the liquid wax over the area of the ears. In a short time it congealed. Then, deftly, with her fingers and tools, she shaped 2 ears that were a perfect copy of Louise's own. The queen got up and walked off a little distance to survey her handiwork. In a moment she smiled. "Now I'm satisfied. It's such a joy to be able to turn out a real likeness." "It must be," said Louise. "I don't see how you do it." She gave a little chuckle. It almost scares me looking at that. It's like meeting yourself face to face." The sculptress, in a particularly happy mood, became quite talkative. She told the girls about various men and women in public life whose likenesses she had fashioned in wax. Louise and Jean wondered when she was going to get to the subject of the mystery. Finally, Jean could wait no longer. She asked abruptly, "Queen, is your real name Moffat?" The sculptress gave a start. She looked at Jean piercingly and did not answer at once. But finally she said, "Yes, my maiden name is Moffat, Wendy Moffat. My twin sister is Winifred Moffat. She's the one you saw at Penfield." "But how in the world did you know the name?" Louise and Jean told her about the special delivery letter they had received at school and the instructions in it. "I see," said the sculptress, gazing at the floor and blinking as if lost in thought. Then she looked up. "Strange, isn't it? Unknown to each other, I and my sister have both asked you for help." "Well," she went on, "I'll tell you the story. Mr. Denver's our brother. That's an assumed name, of course. Quite by accident, Winnie found out he was using that name. Fred was always jealous of us girls, feeling that our parents favored us over him. This wasn't true, of course. He was very headstrong and he disliked me because often I could read his mind. I'd tell him that what he was planning to do would get him into trouble. Finally, Fred ran away from home. I didn't see him for years. In fact, not until after my husband's death. Bill had no use for Fred. Since my husband's death, though, Fred has come here several times, threatening me." Louise spoke up. "Threatening you? Why?" A look of sadness came into the wax queen's eyes. "Fred keeps insisting that I sell him my business and all the wax figures. He wants to pay me only a very small sum, but as you can see, these figures are worth a great deal." "Does he still come?" The sculptress said that he had not been there in the past few weeks. "I decided to keep the door locked and Ozma was instructed not to let Fred come in." Jean asked, "And yet you want to find your brother?" The queen nodded. "I can never tell when he will turn up again. It's very uncomfortable living with a shadow over me. At times it interferes with my work. Besides, Fred owes my sister Winnie a large sum of money, and he should be made to pay it. She and I have a lawyer who has been trying to locate him, but without success. I thought an attorney might be able to scare Fred into leaving me alone." The sculptress smiled. "I haven't told the lawyer I was going to ask you 2 schoolgirls to locate my brother." "I hope we can solve this mystery for you," said Louise. "As a matter of fact, we do have a possible lead." "You have?" the queen asked hopefully. Louise said that it was a slim chance. She explained about their aunt having told them there was to be a carnival in Oak Falls, and that it was likely her brother would be in charge of awarding the card to a lucky winner. "Oh, this is marvelous information," the Queen said excitedly. "I must tell Ozma about it at once." She rushed out. Louise and Jean were entrusted to see that the woman confided in Ozma. "She must trust him," Jean said. "What do you think of the two of them now?" "I think the Queen is sincere about wanting to find her brother, but as for the stolen bust, I still don't know." "Shall we tell her suspicion about Denver?" Jean asked. "Wait," said her sister, "until we're sure we are right." While waiting for the sculptress, they walked around the bust of Louise, admiring it more each time they noticed another detail. "I can understand now," said Jean, "how Wendy Moffat got the name of the Wax Queen." As she spoke, the doorbell rang. Moments later, a cry came from the shop. The girls rushed out to the front room. There stood a burly man with whiskers. His coat collar was turned up and a felt hat was pulled low over his face. He was twisting the Wax Queen's wrist. As she moaned in pain, Ozma darted from a corner with a large statue in his hand. "Stop that!" he cried, and with full force brought the heavy piece down onto the man's wrist. With a yelp of pain, the intruder let go. At that instant, he saw the girls rushing toward him and dashed out of the door. Louise and Jean ran into the street and looked up and down. He was gone! But a car sped away from the curb a few doors down, and they surmised he was in it. "That was the man who snatched Aunt Harriet's purse!" exclaimed Jean. "I recognized him even with his face partly hidden." "So did I," said Louise. "I wonder who he is." "Maybe the Queen knows," Jean replied. They asked her, but she declared she had never seen him before. "What did he want and why did you grab your wrist?" Louise asked. The sculptress was shivering. "He mumbled something. It sounded like, 'You've got to sell this shop to your brother or you'll be sorry.' Then he grabbed me." "He must be your brother's employee," Jean said. "I agree," replied the Queen. "Sadly," she added, "I owe much to Ozma, my faithful friend." She extended her hand to the elderly man, and he patted it. The Danas felt certain that the assistant was not involved in the double theft of the bust. Obviously, he was loyal and would do nothing to hurt the woman or cast suspicion on her. They wished they could feel as certain of the Queen's honesty. "Girls," said the sculptress, "I'm tired now. Come back tomorrow and—" Louise and Jean waited for her to finish the sentence, but suddenly she became starry-eyed and was completely lost in thought. Gently, they led her to the couch in the anteroom, then put on their coats. They intended to leave the Queen without trying to say goodbye. But, as they started through the curtain, she called, "Wait!" They stopped abruptly. "I've just had a message," she said. "It was vague, but it means harm is coming to you girls. I will concentrate on warding it off." "Can you actually keep this harm from happening?" Jean asked, amazed. "I don't know," the Queen replied humbly, "but I can only try. My thoughts will be with you, but you must be very careful. You're in great danger." End of chapter 8.